Hello and welcome to your week 3 assignment for the Microsoft Project Work Breakdown Structure. This is where we're going to be taking that week 3 file that we created previously that was the manual WBS, where we articulated all the hierarchical structure, the tasks and subtasks, and we laid all that out into that manual Excel template. We're now going to take that data and we're going to incorporate that up into Microsoft Project. So there's a couple things you need to really understand. One is that every project manager and every program manager out there has to have some level of understanding of this particular tool or a project management tool. Now, the reason that I want you working in Microsoft Project is 99% of the people that I know are working with this particular tool. This is the best and easiest tool that's out there. That's why I want you to use this. It has the most tutorials. It's the easiest for us to kind of decompose and to understand. And there are variations of it when you talk about Microsoft Project 2010 versus 2013, 2016 versus 2019. The algorithms that are inside it change. So sometimes, depending on the software version you're using, you can get different data depending on what you're looking at. And by that I mean when we get later on into earned value and we start looking at how it calculates some of that information, it changes. Also, the structure for incorporating data, the menu structure, what that looks like has evolved. Each of those iterations of Microsoft Project changes nuances a little bit. But once you've mastered Microsoft Project, anytime they roll out a new change, it's very easy for you to figure out how you were doing what you were doing before, because it's a basic process that you're following. And that's the big thing I want you to walk away from. The other thing is, this is one of those skills that I think is critical for you as a project manager. You must have the ability to do this. So let's take a peek at some of the stuff that we've got lined up for you. But the big one's going to be that I've already got a template in place for you. So if you go down, and the first thing is to pull up that Microsoft Project template. Once you open that Microsoft Project template, it's going to open up I'll call it a sample file for you to save down and for your team to use. You'll see that in this bare bones file, what I've laid out for you is just those components that were in, I'll call it the work breakdown structure, the manual one, that were essential. These were the ones that were decomposed out of the project proposal. They weren't necessarily in your scope statement. Your scope statement could have had more detail, and your manual work breakdown structure could have had more detail also. So what I want you to do is I want you to know that this is just a starting structure for you. You can grab things, you can move them around, you can change this in any way you want. You can put the WBS column over here if you want. You can add additional pieces, but ultimately what I need you to do is I need you to take that data that was in that manual breakdown structure and decompose it and put it over here. We're translating that data over. So you've got Start Project here. It's still at a 1.0 level, remember. What I need you to do now is go ahead and put in, for like feasibility study, what were the tasks that you had. You'll see that I've bookended the front end and the back end. So Accept Project I've got laid in for you at the back end, and Start Project at the other side. One of the things I was taught a long time ago, which I think is very, very valid, is that anytime I go to do some level of, I'll call it project charting similar to this, anytime I've got a task, the first thing I do is I identify what the task is. It's the header. And the first task I have is to start whatever this is. Start feasibility. I always add a front-end milestone. So over here also, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to add it as a 0-day duration. That gives it to me as a milestone. And then I lay in the tasks underneath it. And then in addition to that, after I'm done with all of my tasks, I then go in, and after I've started a feasibility study, I then end that task or that subset of tasks. End feasibility study. And the reason for that is, depending on how you claim credit in a project for your status as you're moving along, you're going to find that the start and end philosophies are areas where they'll hang milestones off. They'll ask you, when are you halfway through a project? because they want to create some level of accountability for showing progress. What I always do is I give them a start and an end milestone. That gives us the trigger. If I've started something, it could take months before I get a chance to claim the closure of it, but putting that start and end study or logic in there, I think, is critical. You want to make sure you do that, and then claim those as 0-day durations. That forces them into being milestones. That way you've always got a milestone in the beginning and a milestone at the end of each one of these. Okay, and then you lay in the tasks and all of the subtasks that you identified in there also. And then once we're done with that, you can do a hierarchical linking. You can grab 2 of these areas and then just go up and use the chain command from a functional standpoint, and you'll be able to see these in the menu structure. And what you're going to do is you're going to link those. And once you've got those linked, you'll understand what your project looks like. That whole flow of a Gantt chart will show up on the other side. So in this area over here, the dates will start to pop in because you'll put your start date for your project and theoretically your end date, and then you're going to fit those pieces together. Okay? Now this is going to give you realistically a really strong start at looking at what a project schedule is going to look like. This is a Gantt chart view. There are multiple views that we're going to ask you to pull up, and there are ways that we're going to ask you to manipulate your data. We're going to have you do cost and resource loading at another time, but for right now we want you to get the basic structure. We want you to understand exactly what this is going to look like. Okay? Now, also let me add a couple other things. This is worth 45 points, and we've got a grading rubric already set up for you here. So if you open the rubric, it's going to show you exactly what's required, how many points you get for each of the areas. But I want to make sure that all of you get the experience of putting data into Microsoft Project, that all of you really understand that flow. So make sure, if you're not doing the team project, that you are following and adding some of the areas of data together. So the team leader's responsibility is to make sure that everyone gets that opportunity and experience to understand what it's like to input in some level of data, to understand how Microsoft Project starts to work. Okay? Listen, if you've got any problems, issues, or concerns, we've laid out a tremendous number of links for you in here also. So you've got some web links that I've added for a couple different resources. YouTube has a tremendous amount of resource associated with Microsoft Project and how to put together or start putting together a project. In addition to that, Microsoft itself and your software link that you're going to go into, when you download the software, it's going to come up with a series of tutorials also. I would strongly recommend going through all those tutorials and then get in and start to play with the software. You've got to start to experience and see, how do I create that hierarchical structure? How do I indent and outdent to create the start and then other pieces that flow out of it? How do I link pieces together? How do I put dates in? There's multiple ways to do each one of those tasks that I just talked about. And that's what makes Microsoft very, very powerful and a real pain to try to really master, because there's multiple ways to accomplish the same task. So knowing all of them means that not only do you understand the shortcuts, you understand the menu structure, you understand the right click on the mouse will drive you in certain ways. The only way to get that experience is to start playing with it. So once again, this is your opportunity to start working on the project, Microsoft Project work breakdown structure. When this is completed, when this file is completed, the team leader will upload the MPP file. I need a copy of the MPP file loaded over into the gradebook, and only the team leader needs to load it, and that way I can then get in and grade it. If you've got any problems, any issues or concerns, make sure you hit me in my Zoom hours that I've got available for you, or call me. Let me know what's going on. Email me. You can always text message me also. So I look forward to seeing you guys every Wednesday. You know that. That's when we have our live Zoom lecture. If you need additional information, that is a great avenue to do it in week 3. So I'll talk to you later. Have a great week. Goodbye.